So, part two. So the first part of my first semester video series, I guess it's only just gonna be 2 videos, but the first part that I did was my creativity class. I only took 2 classes for a semester, and I'm only taking 2 this semester, but I decided to do like a recap. So I did poetry. That's my concentration, so I have to take a poetry class to start off. So the class was essentially like the same length as the other one, like 16 weeks or whatever. We explored like writing. We had different prompts. We had to submit things like every week or every other week. We had to read books and kind of give our thoughts about it. We explored like experimental forms. What is a poem? What isn't a poem? The kind of like language around poetry. We gave feedback, and then we had to have like a portfolio at the end. We had a few like writer series or writer like readings, poetry readings that we went to, and then we had like an interview with like one of the poets that we had to read for the semester, and it was over Zoom, and he just answered our questions about writing and process and things like that. So it was really cool. The first like few weeks of the semester, like I like wasn't feeling it. I feel like I was very standoffish about like the entire thing, and I was just like, I don't know, I wasn't feeling the vibe. Like I had to feel out the vibe of the like people that I was in class with, and then like the professor. And I think halfway through the semester is when I started to open up, because I kind of had a certain vision of what kind of poet I was going to be. I thought it was going to be like this very like, like very elusive yet clever poet, and this poet that like hid behind like a lot of like tricks of language and stuff like that. And I kind of felt like the resistance that I got in my like in the interaction with my professor, to me, reflected back, like I kind of was like discouraged at first, to be honest. But I think the more I became honest with myself and what I wanted to write, and the more I opened up and felt comfortable with people, because I'm not someone who really feels comfortable with people like on the outset. Like I feel like I've worked in enough environments, and I've been around enough people that like that can go either way. And I feel like when you're too open, people act weird, and then when you're like too closed off, people act weird. And it's just like, well, what do you want from me? Like, what do you want? So I had to like open up with myself, but I also allowed myself as a writer, as a poet, to really explore what I wanted to be, and acknowledge that like what I thought I wanted to be as a poet isn't necessarily what was interesting to me anymore. Like I wasn't particularly interested in being like the really overly clever poet that was hiding an innuendo or anything like that. Like I didn't need to have slick lines. I didn't need to like that. I really found that I was far more confessional in poetry than I had expected. I'm a lot more interested in like metaphysical, occult, sensual, sexual, erotic, very dark material sometimes, of death, physical harm, like the seediness of human nature. Like I feel like I opened up. I wasn't this person who was like interested in being overly abstract anymore. And that was kind of hard for me to take, because I am a very abstract kind of person. That's kind of the name of my tarot channel. Like these big ideas, but when I want to write, I don't necessarily want to be like that. And that was like one of the biggest shifts that I had for the entire semester, that I wasn't going to be that sort of poet. And I don't know, like that just was like interesting to me, because I thought I always would be. So yeah. So some of the poetry books we had to read, or some of the like the books that we had to read for this semester, the first semester. So I just looked up how to pronounce her name. So I didn't read this one, and I didn't show up for class that day either. Velzana Mortz, Collected Body. Now, so the people in my class, they were like, this was kind of like heavy for them to get through. So I don't know how like I'm gonna get through it. But to me, I wasn't like necessarily put off by any of the writers that we had. Like, I just wasn't. But anyway, she's a Belarusian poet. So she writes in English and Belarus. Is it Belarusian? I believe so. I worked with somebody who's from Belarus, so it's kind of interesting. So I'm gonna like do like this. But yeah, like that's the book. This is the back. Copper Canyon Press. I should do a video on like different presses one day. And then, so yeah, I didn't read this one. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't, like, I was just so bad. Like, I was just coasting. Like, I did the work as far as the, like, the workshop stuff. I did those, but, like, the reading, I always felt like I was behind. This semester, I'm doing a little bit better, but, like, since my grandmother passed, like, especially with the other class I'm in, where it's more, like, software-based, like, getting the software, using the software, working the software, it's been, like, such a pain in my ass. But the reading part for, like, the second poetry class I had to take, like, it's been kind of a breeze because I've actually been engaged. I think I really just had to feel out what was going on energetically with me and emotionally and psychologically with me in, like, poetry the first semester. So we read this. And so it says, collected bodies voyages begin in the rural landscapes of childhood and move through the grim fairy tales toward idiosyncratic images of the sea. This Polonaise in Grey Flat Minor, in her first collection of poems composed entirely in English, Velzana Mortz writes effortlessly about the Caribbean or the United States as she does her native Belarus. Her sensibility is captivating and forceful, finding light in the dimmest rooms, yet holding on to dark truths, as when death hands you every new day like a golden coin. As the bribe grows, it gets harder to turn down. That's, I guess, part of the poetry. These poems forge from desire and history, an awakening in which the poet repays her debts of love and will. Yeah, so this is that. So that's that. We read Tim Siebel's Fast Animal, and this was the poet that we were able to talk to on Zoom in the class, and he was like really cool. Like, he was really cool to like talk to, very approachable, very willing and open to answer our questions. I think sometimes when you're talking to people, they, especially if they're like older than you or further ahead in their career, like some of them can be like, I don't know, sticks up their ass. But like, he was very approachable, but he was very honest about like the realities of writing and being a poet. But I enjoyed his poetry. This is, let me say, hold on, which one that I enjoy. I'm gonna read it because I enjoyed it. Where is it? It's like the name of it. I know I'm not, okay, let me see. I think that's it. So I'm going to read it. So this is Tim Siebel's Fast Animal. So, what? Curiosity, seed that turns the world into what? We are told by those who were told by still others. What's what? The telling, the great storm each man, each woman walks as if beneath a second sky. This and this, of course, and this. The rain rains down like rain everywhere and all over. We don't know that we don't know what's been done to us. Consciousness, kept like a fly in a jar, a small hope buzzing the glass. What is it? What is it? What is it? And I felt like it was just like really interesting, like a really interesting, like circuitous kind of poem that keeps you looped into trying to figure out what it is. But obviously, there's no point in trying to figure out what it is. It just is. And I really enjoyed that. And then yeah, we just like talked to him about poetry and writing, and he recited like verbatim one of his favorite poems, and I thought that was interesting. And it goes to show you the impact that writing can have on someone. Next, we read The Triggering Town, Richard Hugo. There's another person I think we read. I don't know where the book is, because I don't think Richard Hugo was the one. I think it's who, I don't know. But this was The Triggering Town, and lectures and essays on poetry and writing. So again, I really didn't read this one. I tried to get into it, and when we were talking in class, like, I mean, it was okay. It was okay. Like, it wasn't like the best. It wasn't the worst. I feel like I need to reread it because I don't know. My mind was just not into like the reading portion. I was more focused on like getting the actual poems for our workshop because we had to do a portfolio at the end. So I think I'll reread this because the discussion we had I could follow, but it was just like there were just certain aspects that are like very foggy about this book. So I'm gonna like reread this. Lastly, we have Hopper's Women by Kendra Kopelke. So Kendra Kopelke is actually the founder of the program that I am in. And so she wrote this book of poetry. And it's based on, Edward Hopper? I believe it's Edward Hopper. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed looking at the pictures. I enjoyed how they work together. Her way of expressing herself through poetry is really like top tier. Especially like I'm a sucker for like the last line of stuff. Like if the last line gets me, I'm like, yeah. And it doesn't have to be overly like clever. It just has to be like really nice. It just like gives me a nice feeling. But yeah, so she did a reading at the school, and we had to read it. I actually think Hopper's Women we may have had to read for the creativity class, but yeah, I'm just gonna tell you guys now about it. But yeah, we did this. One of the things that did come out of this poetry class, not the creativity class, is that I grew to love ekphrastic poetry. And I actually started the challenge on here and then, fell off. Ekphrastic poetry, like poetry about art, about music, about something artistic, essentially. And I find that building on this creativity course that I took with this poetry class last semester, you have to focus on details. Like you have to be open, right? The creativity class was meant for you to be open to seeing, open to exploring, open to experimentation. And the poetry class gave me an avenue through which that like experimentation was coming out. Another thing we learned, as you saw in the last video, was like Duende, and we did we read about Duende, we read about the muse, and kind of like killing the muse, and Duende being like what you should be aiming for, and that it's not necessarily the prettiest poem that that will set you free, essentially. It's the one where you are willing to do the work of exploration and bearing it all out and it doesn't mean that the topic is about you at 5 years old and the trauma that you have. It's just whatever topic you are going for, you're really going for. And you're not holding yourself back, and you're not relying on necessarily like former tricks to get you ahead. You are really kind of like laying bare a lot of things. And like I said, it's not a confessional thing. It's just like you're really putting energy into it. Like your energy is really in the poem. Because some poetry does read like it's very distant from it. Like they're trying to make it like intellectually like stimulating or intellectually smart. And that was the poet that I thought I was going to be, and now I'm more of a confessional. Like, let's just go ahead and say this. I'm tired, I'm annoyed, I'm upset, and here is why. And going into like things like that. But yeah, that was the first semester. I really enjoyed it. I got into a lot of different things, and I actually became a poetry reader for the publication that we run. Hopefully I can do it again. I'm just not able to make the meetings because they changed the times. I was missing all of the meetings. Like, they'd be like, here's the meeting notes. I'm like, damn, like I missed the meeting again. Like I would like never be around for the meeting. Like I would write it down, or I would just straight forget, and then I would see the meeting notes. I'm like, damn. But hopefully I can be a reader for next semester. And I was going to try and find reader jobs or reader like things to do online, Instagram, but my grandmother had passed, so that kind of like, that wasn't a priority at all. So I'm getting back. I'm going to do more videos on the semester and kind of like my portfolio, how I feel about that, things I've been applying to since then. That is where I'm going to go with that. But as of right now, this is the first semester, part 2. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you're in an MFA program, creative writing, are you doing poetry? Are you doing nonfiction? Are you doing screenwriting? Are you doing playwriting? Like, what are you doing? And how is the semester, the first semester, or whatever time period you're in, first year, second year, third year, thesis year, how is that going for you? All right, thank you for watching. I'll talk later. Bye.